Now last week I made my video of the Star Trek theme tune. I did it all on an iPad in a Travelodge hotel room, and actually here I am in the same Travelodge the next week. What are the chances? Rock and roll. Good old Travelodge. Now I've got the thing laid out on my iPad here, as you can see. I've got all the parts that I recorded to try and get an approximation of what that 60s theme tune was about. Now, the 60s version is beautifully played. It's some concert orchestra, and it's a big band doing it, and it's just very nicely done. Now, I've obviously done a sort of rework of it. Because here I am with an iPad with the sounds that are available on it, but I hope you agree that the sounds on this were pretty good, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk my way sort of through it. Just briefly, at bar 21 at this point is where the main theme comes in. But before that, I had to think, well, it's sort of free time at the beginning, but actually what I did was I recorded it to a click, and then without any percussion sort of worked out that it was roughly 16 bars in length. 21 bars in length. So a little introduction, and then those bits of speech, space, the final frontier, all that stuff. So what I used at the beginning was this. I used the Epic Cloud Formation, which is just one of the plugins on the Alchemy synth. But I just, picked a sound that was, sounded ethereal enough. On the actual app itself, on the Alchemy synth, you have a range of controls, and you have this very clever XY joystick, which allows you to just try out different sounds. If you slide to the left, so that the stuff on the right is revealed, you get extra controls, which is quite nifty. So this is a synth that is built into Logic Pro, but make no mistake, the one that's on GarageBand, even though it's watered down, if you will, is still hugely capable, a real boon, because you can pretty much get anything you want. Now, going back to the intro, I had that, and I also had a couple of other things, like the electric piano. Now, the Rhodes piano for me is a very useful device. I used to have a real one, but just broke my back carrying it. But it's very, very basic in its sound, especially when you play it quietly, and it can be really good to fill out mid-range, which would otherwise be lost. So if I just play that again without the electric piano, that sort of definition has been lost slightly. So if I put the electric piano back in, and then a couple of other things as well. I had a couple of bass sounds as well. One very low bass sound, with that slidey synth. Now I think it was that one. Of course, I've got to go around and sort of just check out my tracks. Yes, it was. Now, the pitch on here means that you can actually have a synth that does this. Of course, with echo on it, it sounds even more ethereal. It's a bit like having a theremin put through a delay pedal. So the notes are sort of catching up with themselves. So I used that. I also used a very low bass sound, which is the one beneath. So if I just solo that out, because it was very quiet, I didn't want too much bass to be at the beginning, because it's all about those sort of ethereal sounds. So it's almost not there at all, really. But it just gives that sort of intro a little bit of a sort of completion, I suppose, over the entire frequency range. Then the next bit that I put in was the French horn. That horn section in that original band, there's some good players there. So that's the sort of the main hook line of the Star Trek thing. So going from the beginning. Now, of course, a real French horn, it doesn't. It's pretty good sound, but if you put it, put some reverb on it, and you've got those vocals over the top, you really can't tell, really, that it's a fake French horn. It's just got quite a nice quality to it. All the sounds that are built into GarageBand here, they don't do awful sounds. They don't put those in. They only put good ones on. As I said, disclaimer in a few videos ago, I am not in any way connected with Apple, but I think that this is such a fabulous piece of kit. It's so good, it's so useful. So just listening to the vocals as well. Now I used the Zoom IQ6, and actually that's what you're listening to this narration on. I'm recording the vocals for this to another device. So just going from the beginning.
Space. The final frontier.
Now with the vocals, of course, it's narrated, it's not sung, so I don't want to compress it too much. I think it did have some compression on it, just to go over that sort of orchestral bit, so that none of the quiet things would get lost. So if I just unsolo everything and just listen to the vocal on its own, there we go. Let's just have a listen to the vocals.
Space, the final frontier. These are the...
So of course there's a bit of reverb on there. I've chopped quite a lot of the bass out because it's narration over a sort of something that's not very bassy anyway. And I didn't want the voice to be the only bass thing there, because it would just make it sound a bit odd. Also on the original, the way that it was broadcast, there's not actually much bass on that narration anyway. So I've just put a few effects, a bit of compression, a bit of treble, and then just cut the bass away, and then added loads of reverb to it. Of course I could do echo, but it does take away the definition of those words.
Space, the final frontier.
That just wouldn't sound any good at all. So just closing that page down and closing the mixer pane. Looking forward, we've got the crash cymbal at the end here. Now, this I managed to make from the drum kit. If I just give you a demo of how I did that, I'm going to add a track, and I'm going to add the acoustic drums. And what I did was this. I recorded, in fact, what I'll do is I'll make the section a bit longer so that you don't hear anything else afterwards. Could always soloed it, I suppose. But anyway, I'm going to go to a bit later on in the track, and I'm going to record this, and I'll show you how I got the crash cymbal only and the reverse. Okay, so there's my crash cymbal, and if I now close the page down, you can see it at the end here. There we are. Fine. Now, the only thing I didn't want was the bass drum. Now you do have the bass drum, which is automatically sort of set to work with the crash cymbal. You can switch that off, but if you forget or you just play something like I've just done, all you need to do is to go into it and take the bass drum away. And there is your crash cymbal. Now, the next thing to do, before I reverse that, because you can't at the moment, it's simply digital information, is to click the track that we had and merge it. And what that does is it will create me an audio file. But notice that it will create an audio file that is the entire length of the piece of music. Doesn't matter, because all we have to do is just to clip it, just to split it so that we've got just a little bit of it. And then we have to wait for the cymbal to finish. It's about there. Try not to sort of cut off that, because it could actually sort of impact on the sound. So that means that I can then delete everything either side of it. There we go. Now I've got my crash cymbal. I can copy it and then paste it somewhere else. And then I can reverse it by clicking on it again and going to Settings and then Reverse when it comes up on that little page there. And there we go. You can see now I've got a crash cymbal that is in reverse and one that isn't. So if I now drag the one that is the normal one, I can then have a sort of a cymbal wash. Now notice there's a little bit of a gap at the start there. I wouldn't want that. So I can actually just clip that off and then drag what remains over. That means that now when I play this back, you'll hear a reverse crash cymbal followed by the normal one. Of course, you have to tweak it to make sure that you don't hear that, the sort of little gap there. So you can drag one with respect to the other. There's a little bit of going on there. But we can shorten one with respect to the other. And drag them together again. See what happens there. I managed to do this first time, so apologies if it's sort of looking a little bit clunky. There we go. There was a nice rise and fall there, and that's exactly what I did for the rest of the tune, as you can see. And I just dragged the reverse crash cymbals right up to the cusp of the normal way round. So, moving on, we've got the main theme starting at bar 25. I think it was bar 25, bar 21. The first thing I did in order to put everything down together was to put some percussion loops down. Now, the first one is this. Now, I believe this is was it Coconut Grove. I just opened that up and thought, yeah, that'll be fine. There's quite a lot of percussion on the original, so I thought, well, I'll put that down first, and then I can layer up stuff around it, and that's exactly what I did. So if I just close down that now, and just go to the studio percussion as well. Now this is where you can tap instruments in real time, which is basically what I did. That sort of thing. So those two tracks together, and then I also put some congas just in there. There's loads of sounds here, they're masses. It's so good because percussion really can lift a performance. It can lift a mix up, especially if you've got a chorus or something, or you just want to add more to a song. The percussion is so immensely capable. It's a real luxury to have this because it's an afterthought for a lot of the time. I've also got a cajon just to give that bass sound. So I just opened up a coffee shop, I think it's called. There's like a snarey sort of thing as well. So those three things in combination have really given me a sort of something to work to with the other parts. Yeah. And that's fine. Okay, so just moving on, I got also a double bass part. If you listen to the original, it's a double bass just played pizzicato. Now what I did with this was to play it in using the piano interface rather than the bass. You can play an upright bass with the frets, with the sort of bass neck, but because it's got no frets, it's very easy to get out of tune. I just thought, it's easy enough just to do this. And then just correct any notes that are incorrect along the way. That subject, I played this to my father, who went, "It's the wrong note there." I went, no, wrong note in the tune. And it's actually, there is an incorrect note in it. He's got a good ear. So not liking to make a mistake, I thought I'd better correct this, and I thought I'd wait to do it wait until this tutorial to do it. It's not hugely obvious from the original, but I'll show you where it is. Now, I've also got other things like this. So I've actually got two lines playing, two instruments playing that melody line. I've got the oh, excuse me. There we go. So I've got two instruments playing the tune. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you're struggling to find a synth sound, you think, oh, this isn't sounding right. Maybe it's because you need two of them to actually fill up all of the sort of sonic possibilities with this. Now, the strings. These are so good. What I did was, I went into the string part and I customized the chords. You can edit the chords. Now, there are more than 8 chords in this tune, which is the reason why there are 2 string tracks, because it sort of changed key. So I managed to do the sort of first bit, but then I had to change the chords. You can change them to anything you like. If I just show you how to do that, the spanner symbol here, if we go to edit chords, you could change one of these. You could change it to any chord type you want. You can even change the bass note. This is huge. It's immense. It's so capable. So I've got D7. I could make it a major 7. Or 6th. It's really good. Really good. Now, if I just listen to the string track, what I did was I put some pizzicato hits. So I'll just play that back. Now I put pizzicato in, but you can opt to have pizzicato or staccato or bowing. So, pizzicato, draw across it quickly to get that sort of staccato, or you can draw slowly across it for quiet sounds, and faster for louder. How cool is that? It's so utterly good. So that was the first half of the strings, and you can see that I recorded the second half because I ran out of chord possibilities. When you change the chords for the second half, it doesn't affect what happens in the first half because you've already recorded those notes. So your possibilities are endless here. So that's my strings. So I've gone over the percussion, the bass, the strings, the Fender Rhodes. What I did in the second half was to put lots of sort of rhythmic sort of impetus to match the percussion to sort of lift it up. So we had a couple of chords. And then other things just to go with it. Now, just looking down here, we've got some other excuse me, other sounds, long notes. Now, some of the tracks, and that's about it. So I've managed to do it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 synth tracks and then a few audio things. So actually, there are a maximum number of 32 tracks available, but if you use the synths or any of the sounds on here, it's only 16. When I say only 16, it's not exactly a big issue, frankly. Now, just moving on to the final bit, when I go to the end, you can use the volume automation to sort of fade other things out, fade various tracks out before the others if you wish. I haven't actually done that because the end was clean enough. But when you finish the tune, do wait for those final crashes to sort of to fully end. So actually I think I went up to bar 58 or something. I had lots of bars at the end. It's better to have too many bars than too few. Now I also mastered this using Final Touch. So there's a little bit about the making of this. And I hope there's enough there for you to sort of, great. Now, if I just come out of there and go into my Final Touch, there it is. It's a great program. Costs a bit of money, but it's very seriously worth it. Now, you can see that this is the last thing I did. This is the whole theme from the beginning. So if I go to the louder bit now, you can hear that it's quite a lot louder in level than when I was tinkering about with it just now. So you really can bring it up in level. So you've got all these things along the bottom. Pre-EQ, for example, I actually cut a bit of the very ultra bass off. The reason I did that is because very often you get lots of sort of floaty, washy energy at the bottom that you can't hear, but it's actually wasting a lot of the level. So you want to sort of try and sort of, get rid of that if you can. And I then just put a little bit of top end at the end just to raise the sort of the clarity. Now, you've got a reverb here, which I didn't use, but you can put a reverb across the entire mix. In the good old days of MIDI verbs and quadriverbs, that's what we used to do. So dynamics is the main thing here. Now, as you can see, there's quite a ramp on the mid-range here. Now, that is partly because a lot of the mid-range gets forgotten in a mix, and it can sound very bass heavy and lots of top end, but nothing much in the middle that you can really grab hold of. So what I did was here I just basically notched the compression ratio up to about 3:1. And what that does is it really tightens up that mid-range, and then you can put a bit of a gain on the end to actually compensate for the compression that you applied. So if I just play that back and take out that mid-range, you'll hear that it's suddenly deficient in that regard. So what it's done is it's flattened off those synths in the middle. It's very subtle, I grant you, but it's there. Now, stereo imaging, this is what happens if you've got a bit of a problem with trying to sort of balance your, say you've got left heavy or right heavy mix, or indeed if you want to turn it into a mono file, you may want to do that because the original was in fact in mono. I was tweaking, wonder why nothing's happening. By default, these things are switched off unless you switch them on. So now it's in mono. Long live mono. Amazing. The days of the octagonal television sets with the one speaker. Those are the days. So then we've got post EQ. Now I ramped up the mid-range a little bit more. You might find that things that you do along the way with your processing might sort of tinker with the sound a bit too much. You might want to compensate for that. Last of all, we've got the maximizer. Now this is where you can apply a limiter that essentially will boost the level so it will not go above 0 dB. So if I did this, for example, if I really ramped it up, yes, you can hear how rank it sounds. So once you finish with this, you can send this to the cloud, or you can do anything with it and then re-import, as I did, to make the original video. Now, while I'm here, the incorrect note. The incorrect note was... It's coming up. Da, da, da. There's a semitone incorrect there. I know it sounds a bit daft, but it's, you know, I want to get it right. So the tune, it's finding your tune. You can rename your channels as well. As you can see, you've got all of the sort of evolving currents or electric piano or whatever it is. You can rename your tracks to make it easier to find things. Oh. There it is. There it is. This one. Should have gone there. So it's a very eagle-eyed father's pair of ears there. And I'll just find also this one was the same. And there we go. Crisis averted. Now, if I just play that back now, just got to make sure I've got all the parts there. That's correct. So, sorry about that. But there we go. There was a little correction of the note there. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I shall be doing more things. Please do click and subscribe to my channel, and there'll be loads more stuff.